CJ, let's start with you as the upperclassman of the group. Tell us your story. Where did you play high school baseball? How did you choose the University of Miami? Give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Yeah, so middle school and my freshman year of high school, I actually lived in Colorado, went to Cherry Creek High School. I ended up deciding to sit down with my parents and moving back to Florida. I ended up finishing my high school at Palm Beach Central. It's in right outside of like Wellington, Florida. And I ended up playing with you on the Scorpions, had the blast playing with them through my summer baseball career. Got me in front of a lot of college scouts. I took a visit to University of Arkansas, UCF, Florida, and obviously Miami, where I'm at now. And just the personal connection I had with the coaches was unmatched at Miami. And I think that was ultimately why I ended up going to Miami, also being so close to where I was.
Yeah, absolutely. And CJ, thanks for the plug. Those listening and watching later on, CJ is probably one of the most talented players I've ever had the pleasure of coaching, and definitely be seeing him in the big leagues one day, no doubt about it. So, Blake, how about you? What's your story? Where do you come from, and how did you choose University of Miami?
Yep. So I'm from Orlando, Florida, and my freshman year of high school, I actually went to Dr. Phillips High because my brother was a football player. So my freshman year, I didn't play high school baseball, and then I transferred to Windermere High, where Eric Lassiter was the head coach, and he's the man. I mean, Matt, you know him, and I just fell in love with the program over there. So I played high school baseball over there at Windermere, and then travel ball. I played with FTB and Elite Squad. And I knew into my recruiting process that I wanted to stay in Florida so my family could watch me play as long as possible. And so I really narrowed it down between Florida, Florida State, and the University of Miami. And like CJ said, just the connection with the coaches was unmatched between Florida and Florida State. So, and as much as I love like the beach and stuff, Miami was a pretty easy decision.
Yeah, tough not to love Coral Gables, that's for sure, huh?
Yeah.
Well, the transition from high school to college baseball is a big jump, right? Not only with talent and workload, but my question to both of you, and Blake, you can go first on this one. If you had to pick one thing, what's been the biggest difference for you and the hardest thing to overcome in that jump from high school to elite level college baseball?
Yeah, I think it's from high school. Like I thought, like I worked hard. Like I was always, like wow, like I'm working really hard. But when I got to college, it's a different kind of animal. With being up in the fall at 6 a.m. for early running, and then having an 8 a.m. class after that, and then having class after that, and then not having any time to take a nap. You got to go straight to practice after that, and then after practice, you have another class. I mean, it really is a full-time job, and it was really a rude awakening when I got here. And I wouldn't say I'm even used to it yet. It's still every day is a grind for sure. So that's definitely what the biggest jump that I've had.
Like, what are some things that you've done from a time management standpoint to kind of help you, right, make that transition? You're obviously off to a phenomenal start, 11 home runs already your freshman season, right? Like in the running for ACC Freshman of the Year. Obviously, you're managing those things, right? You're performing on the field. What are some of those practical things that you put in place to help you?
I would just say I understand the amount of time that I have throughout the day, and any little time that I get can to take a break like I do. And I mean, honestly, what I really did, I just started going to bed earlier, like right after practice, right after that class. I got what I needed to get done homework wise, and then I called it a night, and I was up early the next morning, and I just kind of got on a routine after that, and then I just got used to it.
Great, that's awesome. So sleep's important, is what you're saying.
100%.
CJ, how about you? Obviously, into your junior year now, as you look back and as you transitioned, what were some of the biggest obstacles that you had going from high school to college baseball?
Yeah, I guess the easiest thing to say is building a routine, and obviously with the workload, not only with baseball games and practices, but also managing your schoolwork and having time for all that. But I think the underrated part is what you do after practice, involved getting in the treatment room and getting your treatment done so you can stay healthy. I think that's a very big part, whether that's working with your trainers or just getting in the ice bath, really.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that you guys are definitely used to being from Florida, right, is playing a ton of baseball, right? You look back to your high school and travel ball days, there was, no shortage of you guys, playing a bunch of games. I think that one thing that's interesting is kind of this advent of understanding, and athletes, especially you guys' age, understanding how important it is to take care of your body, right? Like I look at CJ, and CJ in high school. How much did you weigh coming out of high school, CJ?
I want to say my freshman year, I was 155, maybe 160 pounds.
Yeah, and what do you weigh now?
So before the year, I was up to 190 pounds. Right now, I'm right around like 185, 186, trying
Yeah.
to maintain my weight through the season.
Yeah, which is tough, right? And traveling, and you don't always get to eat the way you want to or get in the weight room, but that importance of being able to take care of your body, get the sleep that you need, right? Get the hydration, all those type of things are really important. Really interesting to hear. So let's talk about it on the competition side, right? Both of you guys, Blake, obviously as a freshman, you've gone in and from the time, from what I can understand, from the time you hit the ground running in the fall, that just pushed your way into a pretty old lineup, right? And so from your standpoint, Blake, what do you think prepared you the most to be able to make such an immediate impact at a place like the University of Miami?
I think just the work ethic that I had in high school and in travel ball, and me understanding what it took. And it wasn't like that I understood and knew what I needed to do. It was just the people that I surrounded myself with, like so Eric Lassiter, and then me playing with FTB and all those guys on the Philly scout team. And like a lot of the people around me, they would tell me what it takes, and I just bought into what they were saying. And like, wow, I need to work hard. Like I want to start as a freshman, and that was my ultimate goal. And I knew what it took to be able to do that, and that's what I came here and did.
Yeah, Blake, and I'm going to ask you guys kind of both to kind of reminisce a little bit, but that team that you were on with the FTB Phillies, obviously really, really talented, right?
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, like, who are some of the guys that were on that team that some of the people listening might know?
Well, Elijah Green and Drew Jones are actually my best friends to this day. I'm probably on the phone with them all day, every day. We're always talking. Whether like when we're off the field, we're always on the phone, no matter what. Us three are always on FaceTime. So, I mean, and then you got Luke Heyman, who's a catcher of Florida, who's doing really good. We got Durangelo Senche, who's a switch pitcher at Mississippi State. Tucker Tolman, second rounder to the Blue Jays, and then you got a few other guys like Diamis Ross, freshman starting at Florida State. And I mean, it was just the lineup that we had was ridiculous. Like it was probably one of the most amazing teams I've ever been a part of. And a lot of people even see what the talent that we had put together.
Yeah, absolutely, Blake. And do you think that helped you, obviously, surrounding yourself with that?
Yeah.
And like I know that your background, obviously, as a freshman, people kind of knew who you were, and you were
Mhm.
talented, right? But how much did that help, being around other guys like that, to push you?
I mean, it helped a lot. Me and Elijah grew up right next to each other. He's an Orlando guy, and just him being who Elijah is, just always pushed me like, wow, like, I mean, I want to be like him. I want to keep being like him. I want to work as hard as this guy is. Like, he was the 5th pick in the draft. So just being around those guys all the time, it just pushes you and it keeps you at your peak. It keeps you at your A game all the time. Sometimes you find guys are always saying that you're playing like a team that's not as good as you guys, and you find the guys playing down to that level. But when you're playing with guys that are, always at their A game, I mean, it just brings it out into you.
Absolutely. CJ, shameless plug for, the best offensive team I ever got to coach, right? Who are some of the guys that you played with throughout high school, and did that kind of have the same effect on you?
Yeah, exactly. So big name right now, Dylan Cruz. Played with him, unbelievable player. We all knew it. Didn't think he was going to end up going to college, but he made that decision, and it's going to end up working out for him. Another big name was Zach Veen and Judd Fabian. So a few big names right there. But yeah, really just playing with them, just seeing how I guess they worked and how they, like Blake said, brought their A game every game. It just helped push me as a player to match their level.
Yeah. And CJ, one thing that I've been proud to watch from afar is, your maturation both on and off the field, right? So, when you first came up, hard to get you to say a word, right? And now we're actually having an interview and talking for 45 minutes or an hour. But what are some of the things that maybe the University of Miami, specifically college baseball, whatever it has been, has done to help you mature as a person, right? You're MVP of the team last year, right? One of the leaders of the squad this year, right? What's helped you make that transition?
Yeah, I think it's just all the coaches. They going back to having like a connection with your coaches, they really know each and every one of their players on how to push them and how to get the most out of each player. And I think that's really just the biggest part of Miami and the culture we have here.
Beautiful. Blake, so first start of your college career. Tell us about it. What's going through your mind? How did you prepare? Were you nervous? Right, all those things.
Yep. So it was Penn State was my first start, and it was a Sunday game. And I showed up to the field, and I went to line up to see if I was in the game because the night before I got into the game late in the game, but I wasn't starting. And then the Sunday game, I go and I see that my name is in the lineup, and I didn't prepare any differently because I mean, just like any other day, I was ready to go in the game and play at whatever time. So I just did my normal routine, and obviously I was a little more excited, ready to go. And I had something to prove. It was my dream to start as a freshman, and like that day was the time to go, and I just never looked back from then.
That's great. CJ, what are some things, you talked about a lot about, changing your body, right? And obviously as a prospect now, being able to showcase the power. CJ has always been somebody that could really hit, elite defensive first baseman. But the power was always the question mark, right, CJ? And obviously you're starting to show that. And so talk to us a little bit about the process and what it took for you to transform your body and get to the point it is today.
Yeah, so I guess the shameless plug, but HR, our strength coach, is working with everyone. He writes the programs, and I think a big factor to that is this machine we've been using in the weight room. It's called GymWare, and it really shows like how much weight you are able to move at a certain speed. And I think being able to not only be strong but to move weight at a fast rate, I guess, is a big part of baseball, and like your swing being explosive as possible.
How much, CJ, does let's say, obviously when you guys are in season at Miami, in season I mean in class, right? Fall, spring, whatever it might be, but at school, right? Obviously the fingerprints are all over you. You're in the gym with those guys all the time, right? When you go to your summers, right, and you've got time away from that campus life, how do what does that look like? Do they do the programming for you? You guys on your own? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's mainly on our own, but we do get a program sent to us from our strength coach. It's a 4-day block with a mobility day in between. So we'll end up, I guess, finding a gym there. I was lucky enough to be in the Cape, and we had our own gym not too far from my host family, and pretty much just stuck to my routine of doing the 4-day block and using the program that was provided to us.
And Blake, you haven't had an off season yet, so you don't know
Yeah,
what
no,
it's gonna look like, do you?
not yet.
So let's jump into your guys' season a little bit and talk about the U. Obviously, some big expectations with the talent that's on the roster coming into the year. Guys been kind of up and down, I would say, a little bit, right? But starting to peak at the right time, just taking 2 or 3 from Georgia Tech this weekend. CJ, let's talk about playing with expectations as one of the older guys on the team in your draft year, right? What are some things that you try to have the team do, to one, reach their goals, but also just manage the expectations of being at the University of Miami, one of the truly premier programs in the country?
Yeah, so obviously the expectation is not only to get to Omaha, but to win it. And last year we fell short. I thought we had a really good opportunity on getting there and obviously winning it, but fell short in our own regional. I mean, it's baseball, it happens. We end up losing to the team that ended up winning it all. I guess the last team in, Ole Miss, ended up being the last team out, but that's just how baseball works. Any team can beat any team on any given day, really. And I think just everyone, I guess the veterans showing the newer guys the culture of being a family and everyone, it's like a brotherhood in the locker room, which is really nice to see, which we had last year, which made was a little bit different from my freshman year, it felt like, but it's good to see that we're still carrying that into this year.
Yeah, so culture is a big thing for you then, huh? Making sure everybody feels like they have a place. Nobody's better than the other guy. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Blake, for you coming in as a freshman, did you feel that? And how do you feel that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I felt that, and that's one of the reasons I picked Miami because I knew it's always been a huge brotherhood at the University of Miami. I mean, you got guys coming here from a long time ago, and they still come back. They love the university. It's not just the baseball team, but the whole school is a big family, and people take pride in being here at the University of Miami. And that's what I loved about coming here. And I knew the baseball team would have that. So I came in as a freshman and was welcomed in with open arms, they're already messing around with me like just I've been there forever, that they've known me forever. So it was really easy coming in, and they made it easy for me to come in, you know, and just fit in pretty well.
Blake and CJ, both you guys, and obviously pretty much anybody that goes to the University of Miami, highly touted, right? A prospect out of high school. How hard is it to mesh with guys like that, or do you guys find it easy, right? Do egos get in the way, or is it something where the talent that's there, the coaches do a good job of kind of getting the right character guys? What do you guys see at your level?
Yeah, I feel like no one really has an ego, whether it's Yo-Yo or Blake. I mean, coming in who they were, you would never really realize that they had an ego, I guess. And I think that's just a big a big way that the program, I guess, builds the brotherhood.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Blake, what's the toughest? Who's the toughest arm you faced so far this year?
I would say Hurston Waldrop at the University of Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure, him. And then, yeah, I'd say him. He was definitely the most fun to face. It was definitely the most challenging.
And what made it so challenging?
Just that, I mean, he was 97, 99, and you would think that's his best pitch, but it's not. He threw everything, and he threw it where he wanted it, and he just did a really good job of commanding and throwing good pitches in the good counts.
Like one question I've always had is, when you see guys like you that are successful as high school players, right? One of the hardest things, in my opinion, to do, and you guys both as hitters can kind of echo this, is actually hitting in high school, right? You
Oh
don't
yeah.
you don't get to hit every day, right? I mean, in terms of playing the game, right? You might show up one day and face 92, and the next day you're facing 70, right? And then you're not getting pitched to, and it's just hard to get that timing, right? So how much do you think the fall, right, and being able to consistently get at bats and see good pitching help you prepare for this season?
Oh, I think that was like the biggest thing coming into college. I came in here, and that's like one of the things I was saying in high school. Like I was just an okay hitter in high school because of I like you said, the timing aspect of it was crazy. You weren't getting pitched to, and then guys are throwing 92, and then they're throwing 78, and then coming here in the fall, and every guy was 89, and then we got a range up to 99 with Rosario and Walters, and facing those guys. But I mean, the timing aspect of it is it's almost the same every time. And just getting used to that and then seeing that every day has definitely made hitting, I wouldn't say easier, but it's definitely made it more consistent for me.
Consistency is key, and
Yeah.
CJ, you were always a guy had a really good eye at the plate. I can remember, obviously coaching you in travel ball, and you would look at the umpire sideways and, kind of like look down at me if, and I knew if you didn't swing, it wasn't a strike. I think something that Dylan Cruz said on the last on the call I had with him like this was, the biggest difference for him was he only had to swing at strikes. And obviously most umpires are, pretty good at your level. You're always going to have some bad calls go your way. But CJ, talk to me a little bit about, how your approach maybe changed as you got older, even from high school to Miami and then over your last 3 years.
So honestly, my approach really hasn't changed all that much. I still try to stay up the middle of the field. I know I'm not like a home run hitter or power guy, even though I've tapped into a little bit more power this year. But yeah, just trying to stay up through the middle of the field. I think that gives the most room for error. But I think going back, like even I guess the one thing that is a little, I guess, different in my approach is not necessarily like sitting off speed, but thinking it and then being on time for a fastball. I think it's easier for me, which I guess isn't the same for a lot of hitters, to react to a fastball than to slow my body down for an off speed. I think that's just one big thing that's really helped me in college baseball now that I've been getting my name out there. I've been getting a lot more off speed pitches, and it just fits right into my approach with it.
So you actually sit off speed and react fastball.
Yeah, most of the time. I mean, I'm still on time for a fastball, like I'm loading for a fastball, but I'm looking and thinking off speed.
That makes a ton of sense. Both you guys, I'll give you a chance to answer this one. In terms of your routine, right? Let's talk about the fall and then let's talk about the spring. So CJ, I'll start with you. From a hitting perspective, right? What are some drills that you really focus on during the fall to get yourself ready to go? And then how do you put that into, maybe you talked about having that routine, right? What does your routine look like on a daily basis now, whether it's off day, practice day, game day?
Yeah, so in the fall, we did a lot of like weighted ball training, heavy bat training, I guess, to improve our bat speed, which isn't something we do in the season because I guess it makes your hands tired, your arms tired. Whereas more in the season now, it's more tee work, or a big one I like is the net drill where you're up against the net. It really forces you to keep your hands inside the ball. And something we've actually incorporated last year and this year is the first year we've been doing is these like white dimple balls that are good for, I guess, breaking balls and vertical rise, I guess is what they're calling it. Because now I guess a lot more pitchers are having like spin rates. So it's the ball's looking like it's rising, and that keeps your hands on top of the ball, which is something I really like.
So is that off a machine, the dimple balls that you guys do, or is those pitch balls? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it's off the machine. We got it's called an iPitch. They pretty much throws any pitch you want. You can input, I guess, the RPMs of what pitcher you're facing on the weekend. So it really makes their pitches identical to the machine.
That's a nice feature to have, huh? So you get to see the guy kind of before you see the guy.
Yeah, 100%.
How about you, Blake? What are some of your go-to things in your routine that you like to utilize?
Yeah, in the fall, coming in as a freshman, my biggest thing is hitting. Has always been as simple. Keep hitting as simple as as hard as it is. Make it simple, So I always was just kind of see ball, hit ball. I never really did too many drills, and but then I got here and we did some like drills. Like I did the same thing as CJ. I did the net drill, and I really enjoyed that. And then just like some tee work, and then now that I've gotten in the season, I've kind of cut down on drills, and I'll just hit BP and do the stuffs off the machine, and just take it easy, because when I get to hitting, I want to keep it as simple as possible and just see the ball, hit the ball. That's about it.
We talked a little bit about getting the advanced metrics that are now part of the game. Like, how much has that helped you, right? Going up to the plate, we talked about high school hitting being hard. There's no scouting reports, right? Even the best prospects, I can think, you can think of guys you played with, yourself included, right? CJ, same with you, right? Guys that, just, it was tough to hit in high school. And a lot of guys out there, obviously the people listening to this are high school baseball players. I guess my question is, having that information, how much easier is it, right? Going into that
Mhm.
bat, kind of knowing what to look for, and how much of that information do you guys get?
Oh, we get a lot for sure. That's one thing that the University of Miami here and our coaches, they feed us a lot of information, and I applaud them for as much as that they work and how hard they work into getting that information. Like say this weekend that home run I hit against Georgia Tech was I knew going into that bat that guy's 83% sliders. So as a slider guy, I mean, I just went up there and he's going to throw me sliders, and especially with people on base, he doesn't want to give me a fastball. So I mean, going to that at bat, it was just slider, 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 and I got a slider over the plate and did what I should have done with it.
CJ, how about you, man? How much does scouting report play into your approach?
Yeah, I mean, I guess one big thing that tends to always happen to us is teams like to go away from their scouting report to throw more off speed to us. I think that's a big thing our hitting coach normally says is that a pitcher may be 60% fastballs, 30% changeups, and 10% sliders to lefties. But then he'll go back and watch the game over, and it turns out he was 60% changeups to lefties. And so, I mean, it goes hand in hand with I guess, the scouting report. But I mean, sometimes it just, I don't want to say gets in the way, but just rather going up there and just not thinking about anything and just what Blake said. I mean, seeing the ball and hitting the ball, keeping it as simple as possible. But I think it definitely helps knowing what pitches and percentages the pitchers are throwing.
Yeah. So that's what you get fed a lot of the time is essentially pitch type and percentage essentially.
Yeah, we also have like heat maps of where most of the pitches are going, whether the pitcher lives to arm side or glove side against lefties or righties.
Okay. And do you guys have like hitters meetings then going into the weekend where you guys will sit down and kind of go over the staff as a whole? Is that what it looks like?
We do have hitters meeting before every game. It's just mainly on the starting pitchers, and then once the starter comes out, they go to the bullpen wall, like meet in the dugout, and the coaches will go over the pitcher coming into the game.
Gotcha. Okay. For those of you guys that are on live with us, if you do have any questions for Blake or CJ, the Q&A section is open, and you guys can go ahead and type in questions that you have, and we can plug those in here, as we go forward. CJ, I asked Blake this earlier, but in your 3 years, give me 3 of the best arms you faced and why.
I think the easiest one is Person Waldrip. I think it was really just because everything looked like a strike, but it was never a strike. I could have went up all 4 of my at bats without a bat, and I think I would have walked because he didn't throw any strikes, but every pitch looked like a strike. And then I want to say another big arm that's going to come up in the draft is Rhett Lauder. I ended up having some success against him last year and this year, but his fastball isn't like anything any other pitcher has. He has the crazy high spin rate, which everyone's looking for now, but instead of going up, it's also tailing. So it's just something you really don't see. I think those are really the 2 biggest arms that have stuck out to me.
So it's because it's not straight then, huh?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah. How about on the mental side? Is there anything that University of Miami specifically does, or that you guys do, to calm yourself down? What are some things you do to manage that adrenaline during the game? Blake, start with you, and then CJ.
Really to calm me down during the game, I really don't find myself too uptight during the game. I usually find myself very calm. And that's just because I go back and I think of it, it's just a game, and how long have I done this before? How long have I stepped on the field, and how long has a pitcher thrown to me hitting, and how long have I been out there and I get a ground ball? I've done this so long. I've done it so many times. There's no need for me to be out there and thinking too much or trying to do too much. I've done it so many times and I know exactly how to do it. So that just really calms me down, just understanding that I've been here before. I've done this before. no need to get stressed about it.
And CJ, that's probably not a great question for you because you play the game like this, right? But how do you do that, right? I mean, you've always done that. Is there anything special that goes through your mind that just kind of keeps you cool and collected?
Yeah, I mean, I think Blake really hit the nail on the head. I think it's just another game. I mean, how many times, like you said, have we had an at bat? I mean, each at bat just one out of the next 1,000 we're going to get. So, I mean, just taking every pitch at a time.
So, kind of finish up with this one, guys. Obviously, appreciate your time on a day off here on a Monday after a series, and want to be respectful of that. But if you could go back, Blake, you're still a freshman, right? So, but if you could go back to Blake, maybe when you were a freshman and just starting off in travel ball, and then CJ, if you could go back to your junior or senior self, right, and pick one piece of advice, something that you've learned, what would that be? Blake, I'll start with you.
Yeah. Ever since I started, I'd say ever since I committed was like just a real eye opener to me. And the advice I'd give is like take care of your body. I've had a lot of friends, including my brother. My brother was a really, really, really good pitcher coming throughout high school, and then he ended up getting hurt. But now he's a football player. But just the amount of work that I put into my body and stress you put on your body, like you got to take care of your body. Injuries are a real thing, and they put people out for a long time. And I'm lucky enough, I've never had a crazy injury that's put me out for a while, but it's because on how much I take care of my body. You got to eat the right things. You need to do the right things. As much as people hate to stretch, you got to stretch. You got to do the little workouts, the little things. And so stuff like that as a freshman in high school, that's what I would say is if you're working hard, you got to take care of your body just as hard.
Really good. CJ, how about you, brother?
Yeah, so this might come off a little weird, but I think it's just not to care as much as you, I guess, are supposed to. I mean, just go out there. It's just a game. Have fun. Don't worry about who's watching or the outcomes. You can't be focused on results. I think I didn't have the opportunity like Blake was to start every day as a freshman. Early on in the season, I got my fair share of starts, but not a consistent starter like Blake. And just coming in the seventh inning of every game, hoping I get one at bat, and then trying to, I guess, get a hit in that one at bat really, I guess, sent me back. But then I had a story from our volunteer coach at the time, who was Chris Dominguez. He played on the Giants, had his fair share in the bigs. And he told me the story of when he was almost going to get released. It was his last week in the bigs with I think the Giants. This was 3 years ago, this story, but it really stuck with me. And he said that they called him back up because the third baseman at the time was hurt. And they told him, you have 3 weeks here, just enjoy it. And he said he just went out and played baseball, ended up hitting 600 with 3 home runs on the week. And they ended up keeping him instead of the guy who was playing third base in the originally. So I think that story really stuck with me. Just pretty much told me, don't care as much, just go out and have fun.